Om Sahana Vavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karvavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om. Vasudeva Sutam Devam Kamsa Chanuramardanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum. Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum. So we are in chapter 8 and we're meeting after 2 weeks. The previous verse that we did was verse 21, where it talked about the final goal, which is called the unmanifest and the imperishable. That, they say, is the highest goal. They who reach it never again return. That is my highest abode. So we saw in detail everything about that. And now the question was, okay, it is the highest abode, but how do I get there? Even though Krishna Bhagavan has said many times, but as I said that in Geeta also, in 1 second, huh? I got to wear my sweater. 1 second. Yeah, sorry about that. Okay. So, how do I get there? So, Krishna Bhagavan always repeats how to get there with all different ways. And maybe one thing will click to us and we will work towards it. So, this verse kind of talks about that. So, the verse is Purusha sa para partha bhaktya labdhasva anyaya yasyanta sthani bhutani yena sarvamidam tatam. Purushaha. So we have heard this word many times because the highest reality is referred to as Purushaha. Saha, that. Paraha. Para also word we have, jo para means the highest. Partha is Arjun's name. Bhaktya, by devotion. Labhya is attainable. Lavate, or to attain something. Tu is verily ananyaya, और ये word काफी बार आएगा अभी. Without another object means anya बोलते हैं ना word anya होता है another, और ananya means no other. So it just उसके अन्य के आगे अ लगा दिया. That's how it works, this word. Yasya is of whom, antah sthani. अंतःकरण बोलते हैं जैसे माइंड को जो अंदर विद इन होता है, विद इन को बोलते हैं अंतः. स्थानी इज प्लेस, सो ड्वेलिंग विद इन. भूतानी इज ऑल द बीइंग्स. येन इज बाय होम. सर्वम इज ऑल. इदम इज दिस. tatam is pervaded. So we also heard about a lot of this pervading, the highest really pervades everything, just like the ocean pervades entire thing. That's how we have to look at it. So let's look at different points from different swamis. So this supreme dham that he talked about, it's also called supreme reality, is also called Purusha. We know that. And then actually the Sanskrit meaning of the word Purusha is that which pervades everything. That's one meaning of it. There are 2-3 meanings in it. So, we know the examples now, like gold ornaments. Gold pervades all the ornaments. Or the ocean, or the mud pots. Mud pervades all the mud pots. Whichever way you want to look at it, the example. So the same way, in the entire cosmos is pervaded by that supreme reality. And then another meaning of Purusha is that which is complete. Completeness. So everything is within cosmos is in him. So that's another meaning. So these are very interesting meaning in Sanskrit of the words, And also it means anything you can think of is within it, and also beyond. Whatever you cannot even think, beyond also is part of that. So this is a very kind of great concept of this word. So you can, in another words, you can say is beyond all concepts and limitations also. And then here he uses the words Purusha sa para partha. Para, we saw that it means, para also means beyond. So the word para means beyond this world. So now the question is, how do I attain this Purusha which is beyond this world? So Krishna Bhagavan is very clear about it. He said, Bhaktya labhya tu ananyaya. Means he showed the path. He says you can attain that by single pointed devotion. Ananya bhakti jisko bolte hain Hindi mein. Devotion, single pointed. No other. Nothing. So and then I told you the meaning of ananya is anya means no other. Means 100% single pointed devotion to the Supreme Reality will make us realize it. So Nikhilanandji took a very interesting route to explain this bhakti. And all of you must have heard of this, the Navadha bhakti. 9 forms of bhakti that are. If you have not, then maybe this is a time to learn, because they're very, very famous. And I don't know how many of you have heard of Narad Bhakti Sutra. नारद जी ने नारद भक्ति सूत्र लिखा है. उसमें बोलते हैं कि वो भक्ति का बेस्ट scripture is Narad Bhakti Sutra, because he has gone so much in detail about, because हम लोग जब भक्ति के बारे में सोचते हैं थोड़ा कंफ्यूज जाते हैं कि क्या है भक्ति. उन्होंने पूरा बताया है. उसमें उन्होंने ना ये 9 forms of भक्ति बताया है, मगर if you just hear the words, you will not get the good meaning at all. It might sound like somebody just sitting and doing puja. That's not what it is. Very deep. So I thought I liked that a lot. So I thought I'll bring that today, how he explained it. It was very, very interesting. So the way he started, Nikhilanandji is saying that when we think about bhakti, hum log ke kuch, I'm not talking about everybody, but in general I'm talking about. And if you don't study the Shastras, then what concept you have of bhakti is some kind of emotion, emotion, रोना धोना थोड़ा ये गा वा लिया, भजन गा लिया, उसको भक्ति बोल देंगे हम लोग, right? So he's saying no, it's much subtler than that. It is creating love for that supreme reality. So how do you do that? So he was just talking about that. There are head and heart, both are involved in this. So it's not, emotions are also important. Emotions are important, but understanding is also equally important. With understanding. So it's a combination of mind and intellect, bhakti. So what happens is that if it is only based on mind, then it will be incomplete. It's not complete, And if it's only based on intellect, again, there will be a problem. So that's why it should be combination of emotion and understanding, both head and heart. So he was saying, even in common language, we say, you should love with your heart. We don't say that, you love with your intellect or something. We don't say like that. But what is heart? And we have gone through it before. In the spiritual language, a heart has a slightly different meaning. It's not this pumping organ that we think it is heart, And when they talk about heart, we saw in Kathopanishad also, and we are seeing in every Upanishad, and we are seeing in Bhagavad Gita, is going to come later, when Krishna Bhagavan is saying that I dwell in everybody's heart. That's what he always says. Heart. He's not saying that I reside in mind or intellect. When he has to talk about, where is the core residing of that highest Purusha, it is in our heart. So what is this heart? So, and another point is that even though he's all pervading, everywhere, but where do I contact him? In my own heart, kind of thing, So those are the points that we have to churn upon. So what is heart is like a combination or confluence of our pure emotions and subtle thoughts and understanding. When it comes together, then you call that a heart. And in 12th chapter, when we come to 12th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavan is going to tell Arjuna that you place your mind and intellect both in me. That's what he's going to say. Because if you just do one without the other, it's not going to work. So what does that mean? Direct all your emotion and all your understanding towards me. And they both have to go together. And then there is another text, I don't know how many of you have heard of it. It's called Vivek Chudamani. Very, usually you study that also. Shankaracharya, it defines bhakti, defines all aspects actually. So Narad Bhakti Sutra is just purely about bhakti, but Vivek Chudamani mein, it's everything, So there Shankaracharya ji defined bhakti he called it Atma Anusandhanam. That means constantly meditating or having attention on that Supreme Self. And we saw in chapter 6, Krishna Bhagavan said, place your attention on me. So that's, and then how do you do that? In meditation and outside meditation. When you're working in the world, how to, and we saw in detail how to do that. So I'm not going to go through that, but just, previously whatever we learned. So then, Nikhilananji was reminding everybody that when we talk about the supreme reality over here or God, the word God is used for so many different things. So there's a little confusion. He's saying it's not some imaginary God or some concept of God or something, but that final supreme reality that here in chapter 8 he talked about in detail with those two verses, Kavim Puranam and all that one. So, and then when you have the love for that supreme reality, in that understanding, then it's called bhakti. Okay. Otherwise, he's saying that you might end up loving some form or some idea and all that. And here that's not mentioned as bhakti when he does Ananya Bhakti. And then he talked about this, what I was talking about. They call it Bhakti Shastra. How to do the bhakti, what are the pitfalls and what are the details of bhakti that is in Narad Bhakti Sutra. And he's saying that there are 9 steps to it. And it's called Shravanam, Kirtanam, Smaranam, Pad Sevanam, Archanam, Vandanam, Dasyam, Sakhyam, and Atma Nivedanam. So,
Can we write, please? Can you do it?
Yeah, sure. You can write. So Shravanam and Kirtanam, Smaranam, and they also say Vishnu Smaranam if you want to write the complete word. And then Pad Sevanam, Archanam, Vandanam, Dasyam, Sakhyam, and Atma Nivedanam. And the final step is Atma Nivedanam. That's a complete surrender. That's when the Ananya Bhakti happens. So how do you start? The first is Shravanam. Everybody's heard this, Shravanam, Mananam, Niti Dhyasan. We have heard this word so many times. So Shravanam is listening. Because we have understood that, hey, nobody can point, hey, this is God. So how do I know who God is? You have to listen. You have to indicative definitions, they are called. That it started here in chapter 8, Kavim Puranam se shuru hua. Okay, so we have to talk about it. That's called Shravanam. And now what happens is, khali sun ke baith gaye na, kuch nahi hone wala. You got to churn upon it. So what's the best way to churn upon it? Next is Kirtanam. So Kirtanam ko na चिन्मयानंद जी ने बहुत अच्छे ढंग से बताया कैसे होता है कीर्तन. He's saying जो तुमने सुना है ना, किसी और को जाके सुनाओ. हाँ, जैसे हम लोग बोलते हैं ना कि कोई माता की चौकी हो रही है, सबको बुलाओ. Idea is कि whatever I believe in, I want to share it with everybody, or what I have heard and all that. So that's called kirtanam. You gather more people and you tell them. And he was joking. He's saying that, Gurudev used to say कि whatever you have heard in the lecture, go tell somebody else. So he's saying when you go and tell somebody else and you start giving lecture, तो वो बोलेगा, अरे अभी चुप हो जा, मैं ही आ जाता हूँ वहाँ पे. He doesn't want to listen to you. He will come and listen to me. So I thought that was very good. He joked about it. So he's saying that that's the best way to do the kirtanam, okay? And so you are expressing, and when you express what you have learned, it becomes more clear, So that's what, when I'm preparing for this class, I write it down, this, that, and I feel so good about it because वो मेरे भी दिमाग में deeper घुसता है, याद भी रहती है फिर चीजें. So that's one tip it's given over here. So it goes deeper. And so, and the general word kirtana means singing the glory loudly, right? That's what it is. But aloud means, talking to somebody, doing all that. So that's the second one. Third one was smaranam, Vishnu smaranam. So Vishnu is that all-pervading Purusha that we know. So now I have to remember it. Okay, एक बात तो है कि मैंने सुन ली, फिर मैंने कीर्तन भी कर लिया, फिर उसके बाद भी मैं भूल गई तो problem है, right? So I have to constantly remember it. That's smaranam. And then by remembering constantly, it again goes deeper and deeper, the identification with that reality, So, ये हो गया 3, Shravanam, Kirtanam, Smaranam. Next is Pad Sevanam. पाद सेवना में उन चरणों की सेवा करो. So if you just see the word कि पूजा करो, ये करो, उसको बोल देंगे, right? पाद सेवनम. Superficial meaning will be that. But if you go deeper and you go through Bhagavad Gita's teachings about Pad Sevanam, it means that whatever I'm doing, I offer it to Bhagwan. It's the Karma Yoga. So Pad Sevanam ka real meaning in the Vedanta is Karma Yoga. That is the real Aradhana of Puja, performing all actions directed towards the Supreme. So when it comes to Karma Yoga, first you got to know what to do. Like there was a quote from Swamiji, know what to do it and do it yourself. That's Karma Yoga. ये नहीं कि कोई गलत काम करना शुरू कर दो फिर उसको बोलो ये तो कर्म योगा, I'm offering it to God, मैं चोरी कर रहा हूँ and I'm offering it to God. No. First you need to know what I'm doing. Okay, so that comes first. But anyway, once you know what you're doing, then offer it to God. So when we do physically any action, so you are expressing, if you're doing in Karma Yoga mode, you're expressing the love and conviction and understanding. God gets more deeper and deeper because there are, methods, 4 or 5 points of Karma Yoga, how to do it. So that's what it means. Pada Sevanam. Then comes Archanam. So अर्चना उसको बोलते हैं ना पूजा में अर्चना करते हैं ऐसे फ्लावर देते हैं ये देते हैं. That is a physical archana. Okay, but what do they mean by over here? So when you're giving something, you're sacrificing. That's the whole idea. You are, whatever you have, you're giving it, offering it to God. So in the Vedantic sense, when you do archana, you are giving, so you are performing action, surrendering to him, but when the results come, you surrender that to him too. That's called archanam in over here. So what is the result can be what you want or what you may not want. Both are, you have to accept it. Prasad buddhi se, and say ye bhi aap hi ko arpan hai. And that's why prasad ko hamesha baanta jata hai. Prasad ko jab bhi to basically, like if we go back to chapter 3 of Bhagavad Gita, he said that whatever result you get, it's actually efforts of a huge number of people that you got that result. We may think that humne kiya. No, many people are involved. That's why it is good to share it with everybody. Because if you just sit and keep eating yourself and not share it with the world, then he even called that you are a social thief. Because you're just taking. Anyway, going back to that. So that's what is giving your result, offering result back to him. So that's archanam ho gaya apna. And then when the identification gets even further with that reality, then vandanam comes. Namaskar, physically namaskar, in the south, the men will completely lie flat and all that. So that's, surrendering the ego completely, basically, and all that. And then, women also bow down, put their head on the ground. So that namaskar reduces our ego and makes our identity with the Supreme even closer. So that is vandanam. Okay. And the next come dasyam. So the word das sounds, so if you just say in general language, it sounds very bad, right? Especially in America, it's like slave or something. It's not like that. We'll see what it means, dasyam. Because suddenly somebody says, why saying that das ban jao, Yeah, Hare Krishna mein to sabhi ka naam hi das or dasi hota hai, because it's coming from this over here. What does it mean by it? So it means that, this is what how he explained. He explained it very nicely, Nikhilanandji. He said, generally thinking is my God, right? This God belongs to me, aisa feeling hoti hai in general. But then when it is opposite, I belong to God, okay? That shift, that stage when it comes, I belong to you, then that becomes a deeper bhakti, and that is called dasyam. And we'll see a little more, because you will see how he opened it up, because then you will have a better understanding when he gave pointers, what is dasyam. So it's just like he was saying that Tulsi Das Ji has some couple of dohas and, things that he says that I belong to you, so you can do whatever you want with me. It's a surrender yoga, na? Like how little kids, they have complete faith in their parents. Parents will say jump from somewhere, they'll jump. They're not going to think twice. That kind of thing, So you can do whatever. So he was just explaining, Nikhilanand ji, that there are bhakti में ना दो अवस्था होती है. Beginning में बोलेगा, God belongs to me, but as it gets subtler and subtler, you will say that I belong to you. You will say that to God. So he was saying that how in the world also, everybody wants to belong to somebody or something. Huh? He was just explaining, he's saying in this romantic language, people will say, I belong to you, you belong to me, some young couple saying to each other, ek duje ke liye and all that. So how that is, and he's saying that then sometimes, okay, after that you will say, okay, I belong to this organization. Like we will say, I belong to Chinmaya Mission, or, I belong to, Yogananda's, or whoever's guru it is, we want to belong there, or I belong to this company, or I belong to this society, or this Agarwal association, or whatever, or nation, or all these things are belonging only. But he was just reminding that all these things are temporary. All this belonging is temporary, So what is the basic thing to remember, that I belong to that God first. That is my identity. And that's my first identity, my deepest identity. Everything else is secondary. It can be a nation, world, organization, family, a person, whatever you want to call it, is a secondary. So when that feeling of I belong to God happens, that means, I am God's servant. I become his nimitta. He can do whatever job he wants through me. So that's where the dasyam comes in. So, and he's saying that here servant doesn't mean that you just do some work or something. That's not what it means. It means that deep feeling that I belong to God, that's called dasyam. I don't have a separate identity. And then he's saying Hanuman ji had that bhavana for Ramchandra ji. And he explained that, जब वो रावण से मिला ना पहली बार, जब उसने वो लंका जला दी, या फिर रावण के जो सिपाही उसको पकड़ के ले आए, वो मतलब उसको तो वैसे तो हनुमान जी को कोई पकड़ नहीं सकता था, वो जानबूझ के बंध के आ गए, because he wanted to have a conversation with, समझाना चाहते थे वो, रावण को. तो रावण ने सबसे पहले पूछा, भाई तू है कौन? To hack on. So the way he answered shows this dasyam bhav, So he said, I am the one that, the one who created this world, and by whose power you have a greatness. Because obviously Ravan was supposed to be great king, and Lanka ka raja, तीनों लोगों का उसने सारे नवग्रहों को बांध दिया था, ये वो जो भी उसकी greatness थी, शिव का सबसे बड़ा भक्त. So he said that the one who has created this world and by whose power you have greatness, uska मैं दास हूँ. Okay, I am his servant. I don't have a separate identity. So, Nikhilanand ji was very funny. He said, जब रावण ने पूछा ना कि भाई हनुमान जी तू कौन है, तो हनुमान जी ने अपना विजिटिंग कार्ड नहीं दिया उसको, और ये नहीं बोला कि मैं ये डिग्री लेके आया हूँ ये यूनिवर्सिटी से, और मेरे ये अकॉम्प्लिशमेंट है. ये ओनली वन आंसर कि वो सुप्रीम लॉर्ड का मैं दास हूँ. Okay, so I thought that was a very good way he explained. So similarly, he was talking about that this identity, when it becomes further deep and further deep, from the dasyam bhav, it gets even deeper and you get closer, and then the sakhyam bhav comes. Sakhyam is a friend. So यहाँ sakhyam को इतना ज़्यादा क्यों बोला? Because with the friend we feel the closest. कभी-कभी हम अपनी बात जो है ना किसी फ्रेंड को जल्दी से बता सकते हैं, और किसी को फैमिली मेंबर को भी नहीं बता सकते, right? See that closeness with a close friend. And then when it comes to Bhagavad Gita, when it comes to later chapter, Krishna Bhagavan there's a verse in there that I am your Suruhud. Suruhud is a friend. And our teacher used to explain that word friend is not an ordinary word. That friend is the one whose only anxiety is a true friend, that your welfare. That's it. He's not going to see that, hey, whether he's telling you something that pleases you and all that. No, if he is true friend, he's going to tell you exactly the way it is. What is your welfare? That is a friend. So here is saying that then you get the sakhyam bhav, a friendly bhav, and that's a deeper surrender to God. And then the last one is complete identification, and it's called Atma Nivedanam. I offer myself to you. I surrender to you completely. That's Atma Nivedanam. That's the last one of part of bhakti. And he was saying that Nikhilananji gave an example that we offer God everything. Like, even in Bhagavad Gita is going to come pushpam patram phalam toyam, that you give a flower, you give a leaf, or you give a water, phala and all that. He's saying that यहाँ और वैसे भी हम लोग कभी मंदिर वगैरह में जाते हैं तो सब लोग बोले ये लाओ वो लाओ ये लड्डू लाओ ये दो. What about you? You offer yourself to Bhagwan. That, complete offering of Bhagwan. Basically what it is, I become your instrument. That's how I would look at it. So this is the final stage, Atma Nivedanam, and it's called Ananya Bhakti. And that's what they're talking about here in this verse. I thought he said it very nicely, all these 9 things. And then there are 2 indicators in this verse to explain what that Param Purusha is. Every time we saw so many indicators, there are 2 more given, which are we have heard it before, but in this verse, they have another way of explaining it. So here it says that, the words are, Yasya Antah Sthani. This is the second part of the second line of this verse. That Param Purusha. So what it means is that by whom all this is pervaded. This means this whole cosmos. This sarvam idam tatam. And one who pervades everything, and then this yasyant sthani bhutani, sorry, that I got mixed up. That means the one within whom everything dwells. The first part, yasyan ant sthani bhutani, means जिसके अंदर सारा संसार रहता है, dwells in that. It's something like the waves dwell in the ocean, like that way we have to see. And then yena sarva midam tatam means the one who pervades everything. So there are 2 points it said, the one that pervades everything and in whom everything exists. That's how you have to look at it. And so now the question is, this is the ultimate goal. And जो हम लोग ने previous verses में सुना था word avyakta, it's that, unmanifest बोला था उनको, right? One and unmanifest was our unmanifest vasanas. But then we were told that there is another unmanifest which is beyond everything. So that avyakta, that, and param dham bhi bola tha, that is a goal also. So that same one, these 2 adjectives are given again over here. That everybody dwells in him, or everything dwells in him, and is pervaded by everything. And then now the question is, so this is what this verse is. Now I just want to give a little background for the next verse, so we'll be ready for it. That if this is the ultimate goal, and if I don't attain this, where do I go? Okay, everybody's ultimate goal is this, but if I don't, then where do I end up? He's going to tell you about that in next coming verses. So that's what is going to happen. Any question, comment? Anybody want to add anything?
Just a question about dasyam and Atma Nivedam. Because when you said dasyam, I belong to you, I also understood as I am your instrument. And then we talked, but then you mentioned I am your instrument in Atma Nivedam. So I want to know the difference, because my understanding was I belong to you is I am your instrument.
Okay, so when you say dasyam, I may not still have a complete surrender. I may, that, like, suppose just a hypothetical example. You have, like, India में होते हैं ना servant, चले तू ये कर, वो करेगा, maybe 1-2 चीज नहीं भी करेगा, okay? But वो last वाले में complete surrender. If you tell me to jump off the cliff, I will jump off the cliff. That's what that Atma Nivedanam is. So it's like, if when we go through Bhagavad Gita, you will see how Arjun's, mind changes. In the beginning, he's arguing. He's telling Krishna, I'm not going to do. He's not, Krishna going to say, get up and fight. And say, no, I'm not going to fight, right? Then finally, he says, okay, I'll listen to you. That happens in beginning of chapter 2. I listen to you. Then it comes, but why should I listen to you? Because you are like me only. And Krishna said, no, I am the one who knows everything. So he gave his visiting card. अभी भी पूरा surrender नहीं आया, right? फिर जब विश्व रूप दर्शन हो गया, वो सब हो गया, तब पूरा सरेंडर आ गया. उसके वर्ड्स एकदम चेंज हो गए. ही सेइंग I don't know Sanskrit so well. Karashi vachanam tava. I'm going to do exactly what you tell me. You're telling me to fight, I'm going to fight. चाहे मैं मरूं, चाहे कुछ भी करूं. That is Atmanivedana. So when the surrender becomes absolutely complete. Until then, it belongs to all these other categories that he talked about, before that.
So I have one comment on it. That there's two lines in one of the prayers. सब कुछ दीना आपने भेंट करूं क्या नाथ, नमस्कार की भेंट है जोड़ो दोनों हाथ. Which means you cannot give anything to God. It all belongs to Him.
Yes.
So you are surrendering totally.
Yes. So it's the same thing. एक भजन भी बहुत सुंदर है. I don't know आप लोग ने सुना है कि नहीं. उसमें वो कहता है कि मैं हैरान हूँ कि मैं क्या ऑफर करूँ तुझे. Because like what Chinmayanand ji used to say, whatever you do for him, you are plucking from his garden only. Right? It's like
even to say, what do I offer? It's not because I am saying, because it's not me. It's
there you go. Exactly. So my mind, everything belongs to you. So in the end, you say, okay, I offer myself only to you. You can do whatever, So that's what Atmanivedana. And the other thing I was going to say, something was in my mind. It slipped. Anyway, when it comes, I'll tell you. Yeah, that's a very good one. Yes. Yeah. Oh, yeah. What he says that you give something which doesn't belong to God. You can give it to him. This is Chinmayanandji's words. Huh? So he's saying that, okay, all the things and material and money and everything belongs to him. What doesn't belong to him is your ego. Your ego. So वो ऑफर कर दो. वो आराम से ले लेगा भगवान. So तुम्हारे में जितनी भी नेगेटिविटी है ना, वो उनकी नहीं है, वो उनको दे दो. Because it's
में तो तभी आती है जब वो समझाते हैं. So even that is him alone.
Yes.
So what can you say? But keep silent. At that point, you're just silent.
Of course. And like they say that the best prayer is silent prayer because God understands you completely anyway. We have this habit of, which is you can say, because it's like, it's like a parent, when a baby is really, really small, the mother kind of knows. Baby doesn't have to say anything. Mother knows, okay, kabhi ye khane ka time hai, abhi sone ka hai, ye, like that, So you really don't have to say, but the baby still cries. So we can cry sometimes,
Yeah, we do.
But when we mature, then you can be silent, Yeah. So these are very interesting things, I think, through Bhagavad Gita, which tells us, yeah.
Umaji, I have a question from last time. Should I ask?
Yeah, that's a very good time, absolutely.
Okay, so you said there were two stages of unmanifestation.
Right.
So the first stage, what happens to that Atma? What happens to it?
So, okay, because this question comes in everybody's mind. That when, you are asking when you get moksha, what happens? Because uske pehle to it creates and stays in the jiva form. It's like an impression. It's like unmanifest. Firstly, let's understand the word unmanifest. Unmanifest means, in the Vedantic term, whatever I cannot conceive with my five senses is unmanifest. So it means something which is there, but I cannot comprehend it. I cannot see it. So that we understood. So that when we die, the physical body goes back to the earth and all the five elements, right? Now the jiva, they say, I'm sorry?
We still haven't attained moksha.
No, we have not attained moksha, So we have this physical body is gone, and they call it subtle body. Subtle body consists of mind, intellect, and the impressions. Because, like in the Western world, all these very hardcore scientists will say, once you die, your mind is finished. Because they're looking at just the physical brain. But our culture and Buddhism and Jain, all of them, all the Eastern culture, no. And even in the Western, I heard that even Jesus believed in the afterlife, but they just changed it. Their that's what I've heard. I don't know. Okay, I'm not expert in Christianity, but from whatever I've learned. So this jiva travels to another birth, because jiva, whatever the impressions are, according to that you will get the next life and also, right? Abhi moksha mil gaya to kya hoga? That's the question, right? So just like that, when the
moksha. No, so jiva goes to another birth, right? It goes to another, but there has a period, right? There's a period in between.
Yeah, okay. You are asking what happens to the jiva in that. So it is like a holding place. It's like the way they explain, the saints and sages. You are going to some India. Okay, इधर San Diego से तो direct flight नहीं है ना. So then in between you have a station and it's a holding place. You are over there. So what is this holding place? It can be anything. It can be a nark or swarg. We don't know. It can be, if you have done a lot of horrible karma, then according to that you will be in the subtle body, will be in that realm, and then otherwise you will be in swarg, and then from there you will take birth again in some another loka. It can be earth. So that's one answer. And then what happens to the subtle body when you get moksha? Just like physical body में जैसे वो it connects with the 5 elements में मिल जाते हैं वो, वैसे ही वो subtle element में मिल जाएंगे. Right. That's all happens.
Yeah, no, that I understood, but not the. So now it's clear that that's the holding place.
Holding place can be long, short, and all that. And then when these people who have these NDE experiences, they are in that holding place, and it seems, don't quote me on this, but whatever I've heard, I will tell you that when you are in that holding place, you have a literally whole team of people who help you for your next life and all that. So there is a consultation going on. Okay, now I did this much progress. There you get a clarity कि मैंने ये गलत किया, ये सही किया. अभी तो हम लोग को clarity भी नहीं है. मैं कोई काम करूंगी, मुझे लगा मैं तो बहुत अच्छा काम कर रही हूँ, maybe hurting 10 people for all I know. Right? But there you have the clarity, and then you analyze and they say, okay, this is where I have to work, and I need this kind of people to help me in the next life. I'm going to take birth here, and I'm going to do again my spiritual progress. So that holding place में ये सब चलता है.
The holding place is Swarga and Narak.
It could be also.
I mean, it could be.
Yeah, right? We can only guess and see what you believe in. But, you can, Swarg is considered like a vacation. अरे तुमने इतना अच्छा काम किया इस अर्थ पे, अभी थोड़ा vacation ले लो. तो वहाँ पर, bodily afflictions नहीं है, body नहीं है, तो फिर वो sick कैसे होगा? It is in the subtle form. And then whatever you desire, you get it, basically. Without, but उसकी भी एक life है. Okay, now your, bank balance is over. You don't have any more money to spend on your vacation. Go back.
Go back. Okay.
Go back.
All right.
So then you go back.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you.
Or narak is nothing but, okay, I have done some bad karma, uska punishment. So punishment bhog liya, to abhi mera wo khatam ho gaya. Now I'm coming back. Yeah. Okay. Any other question from previous or this comment? Okay, so shall we read? Any volunteers to read? Okay, Anilji, you can read then.
That highest Purusha, O Partha, is attainable by unswerving devotion to him alone, within whom all beings dwell, by whom all this is pervaded. A goal of life which has an existence only in the poetic conception of the philosopher will never be considered as a goal to be gained by the practical-minded Indian seekers. A vague indication that after death, the departed souls hang on in a region of nowhere until the day of judgment and so on cannot enchant those who have a scientific bent of mind. And such a philosophy can be insisted upon only when the faithful are discouraged to make use of their own thinking faculties. Blind faith alone can feed the followers of such a creed, jailed behind the iron doors of its scriptural statements.
So he's talking about that, previous verse mein bola na ki that is the highest goal to reach. Not, so now everybody wants to know how to reach that. And so he was just saying that if किसी को गोल तो दिखा दो और ये ही नहीं बताओ कि वहाँ कैसे पहुँचोगे तो फिर वो तो फ्रस्ट्रेट हो जाएगा. वो मानेगा ही नहीं कि वो गोल है भी या नहीं. So that's all he's saying. That, and then, like in some of the other traditions and all that, you just believe what they are saying and don't ask any questions and, blind faith and all. यहाँ ऐसा कुछ नहीं है. जितना क्वेश्चन पूछना उतना पूछो. Every सभी का कुछ ना कुछ, until you get totally satisfied, you can continue. So basically he's saying that goal है और ये भी बताया जाएगा कैसे पहुंचा जाता है वहाँ पे.
Yeah. Just one question, please. In the first, second line, within whom all beings dwell. All beings dwell. Okay, that takes care of people or animals, all beings. And then he says, by whom all this is pervaded.
It's both.
That would include the inert and the sentient and the insentient. That's what we mean by that.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Just want to clarify. Okay.
Here, Krishna, the prophet of the Hindus, vividly chalks out the technique and the path by which what has been called the unmanifest, the imperishable, that supreme Purusha is attainable. Single pointed devotion is the way and the means. Devotion, total selfless identification with the supreme Purusha, can be achieved only when the devotee has learned to disassociate himself from all that is preoccupations and his world of body, mind, and intellect. This detachment from the false is gained in a growing attachment with the real, the permanent. An act of inspired seeking for identifying oneself totally with the experience of self I am is the whole-souled devotion to him alone that is mentioned in this verse.
So Swamiji took, a very deep angle about it, what it means. That what is that devotion means total selfless identification. And I just wanted to bring one point because, since I deal with the younger children at Chinmaya Mission, we have to come up with some ways to explain this, that so even in the world, okay, if you want to achieve something, you have to have a devotion towards that goal. Uske bina nahi hoega. And what does devotion mean? I put all my attention to that. And I exclude other things. कोई किसी एथलीट को देख लो तुम, उसको अगर ओलंपिक्स में जाना है तो वो सुबह 4 बजे उठ के करेगा और उसको बोलेगा पार्टी में आया, बोलेगा नहीं, I have to practice for 8 hours. That's called devotion. So the same thing that works in the world, it's working in the spiritual life also. That if you are devoted, but sometimes people think that devotion to God means I have to drop everything and run somewhere. No. That's why that Navada Bhakti I did. That, hey, Karma Yoga mode mein karo. Whatever you're doing, you remember God through that. That also becomes a devotion only, So those are the points a little bit, yeah.
Okay, I have a question here.
Yeah, sure.
Last time you mentioned about Ramakrishna and his guru, I think Tota Puri. He cut him on the forehead with glass and told him to cut his devotion from Ma Kali. So what was that all about?
So because what happens is that bhakti mein you can become so attached to a form that you forget about the formless. Kabhi people get so obsessed with hey, my personal God is, that's it. And then they can't see beyond. So they were trying to, his guru was trying to give him beyond. That, hey, God is beyond everything. It's beyond the form. So not to get attached to the form. And मैंने मीराबाई के बारे में भी कुछ सुना. I don't know आप लोग ने कहानी सुनी है कि नहीं, कि मीराबाई में भी भक्ति जाग गई थी, right? कृष्ण के प्रति, and she used to always take that मूर्ति everywhere, right? Remember, वही से शुरू हुआ उसके मूर्ति. Then she became so attached to the मूर्ति that when she found a guru, I don't remember now उनके गुरु का नाम क्या था, but उनको भी गुरु मिले, उन्होंने उसका वो attachment तोड़ा, you know, because she was very disturbed that why I'm not getting this final experience. So because she was attached to the form, so and finally it says that when she left her body, उनकी body समा गई वो मूर्ति में. You know, I'm getting like chills because they said they couldn't even find her body. That's God knows it's true or not, but symbolically at least we can understand that she got that final experience when you have to go beyond the form, not to get stuck in the form. In fact, all the other religions, वो लोग बोलते हैं ना मूर्ति पूजा मत करो, मूर्ति पूजा मत करो, because of that you can get stuck in the murti puja and the God is beyond the forms. That's why.
But also, I was reading someplace that once you are into murti puja totally, then you would automatically transcend into formless.
Yes, if you continue that understanding, but if you drop that understanding and just get fanatic about the murti, then you're going to be again in trouble. You know, it's like, of course, personal God is very important because when we are on this earth, we do have a mind, right? And to keep that mind purified and all that, personal God makes a big difference, you know. But we should know that we are people who are like that Atma, which is beyond the form. So it's more like an understanding rather than anything else. You know, so you can still enjoy the murti puja. Some people enjoy the ritual. Some people enjoy conversing with your personal God, whatever. You know, like we could converse with a friend. Nothing is bad about it. But what they are trying to warn you against it in Vedanta is don't get stuck at that. It's like I have a picture of my family member in my house who are away, and I start thinking that they are it. You know, that's what is the problem.
So basically, you have to always realize that there is something higher than what
exactly. So I think Swami Chinmayananji said in his own words, he used to say, try to understand the ideal behind the idol, right? Idol is like a murti, ideal behind it. So ये अपने जितने भी भगवान है ना, उनका tremendous symbolism है. And the more we understand symbolism, we'll be like at awe with this, you know, our Rishi Munis, कि उन्होंने कैसे कैसे बनाया symbolism so that it's an indicative thing for the higher. जैसे भगवान का blue क्यों बनाते हैं बोलो? Have you ever thought about it? Why do they always make pic of भगवान blue color? Blue color के तो इंसान नहीं होते हैं. किसी ने सोचा है क्यों बनाते हैं? Because जो हम लोग देखते हैं ना आँखों से, ब्लू कलर सबसे ज़्यादा वास्ट दिखाई देता है आकाश में और पानी में. That's why they put the blue color, because it takes your mind, you know, to the sky, which is like all pervading, you know. So these are the things we've kind of learned from our gurus, which we never think about, you know. So it's all symbolism with these things to take us to the higher.
The example of blue is wonderful.
Yes, and once I found out, I said, wow, that makes so much sense, you know. I'm looking right now at the ocean and the sky, and that's what is the सबसे ज़्यादा कलर वही है दुनिया में जो हमको अपनी आंखों से दिखाई देता है.
May I add something here?
Yeah, sure. Oh, Kamla ji, welcome back.
Thank you. My understanding is that worshipping God through idol is okay because it brings devotion. But as long as we understand that part, that as long as our senses are involved, we cannot achieve that God. So with idol worship, we need to still emphasize on this one, that still close your eyes and connect within. So whatever God we believe in, whatever we can believe in Hanuman or Krishna or Ram or whatever, but beyond that we have to think that ultimate Brahman is the one which we want to achieve, and that cannot be achieved as long as our senses are involved, busy with it. Make sense?
Yeah, I think I understand. And what we are trying to say is that it's possible that you can reach the highest and you still do the worship because you're just enjoying that. But
Yeah, yeah,
fully
yeah.
well knowing that it's like, I know that my family member is somewhere away, but I still enjoy looking at his picture.
Yeah, yeah.
That reminds me of that. That's why we said, yeah. So that's what the whole discussion is about. So true. Thank you. Yeah.
In Ramakrishna case, every time he closed his eyes, he saw Kali.
Yeah.
So he couldn't go beyond that. So
it's
Dutta Muni
cognitive.
was trying to teach him to meditate. So he took the glass and cut it and said, cut the Kali, just like I'm cutting you.
It's a final stage, and everybody's at different stages and all that. So they're just telling you the final goal.
He achieved that, but then he went back to Kali.
Exactly. Exactly.
Very, very personal experience happened with me. I don't believe in Murti Puja. I go to temples and I find a special peace there, and I like to sit down and meditate there. But those murtis don't create any devotion in me. This is my personal thing. But I went to Veda Life last year, and there is this Neelkant Mandir there. And Shivaji meditated on those hills where I was in Veda Life. And every time I close my eyes to sit meditate, Shiv will sit in between my eyebrows in that posture, like meditation posture. And I keep, I do not worship Shiv. I believe in that light, I want to see that light, but I'm seeing Shiv all the time. And then I had to go to this that please let me connect to that light instead of you coming in my thoughts or in my dreams like that.
See, what happens is, Kamlaji, that what we forget, what we are learning in Bhagavad Gita, God is both. Nirgun and Sagun both. So when we start leaning too much towards one, it creates this imbalance. So, and that's what it is, that when we come to chapter 12, 11 and 12, when Arjun saw the Vishwarup Darshan, he got confused. He said, which form should I worship you in? Should I worship you in Nirakar or Sakar? You showed me the Sakar Roop now. And Krishna Bhagavan did not give him the direct answer. He's saying you have to be absorbed in God. And he also said, there are people who worship me Nirakar, the people who worship me Sakar, nobody superior than either one. But if you can get absorbed, but if you can't copy other people, like you have to see what your mind is made up of and then go according to that. Both will reach the same goal. And the Nirakar will understand that God is Sakar also, and the Sakar will understand that God is Nirakar also. It's a complete circle. So when we get stuck into one thing, then the guru has to come and give you the dose of the other thing to balance it out. So I think then in your experience, you wanted Nirakar, and Shiv is showing him a Sakar bhi hu or Nirakar bhi hu. That's what it is. So that's how we have to look at it. Shall we read now?
Yes.
Yeah.
The self, thus identified by the seeker in his meditation as himself, should not be conceived of as merely the divine spark that presides over his own individual matter envelopments. Though the seeking is subjective on identifying with the self, in the final experience, it is to be realized as the very substratum of the entire universe, implying this oneness of the self with the truth behind the entire world of phenomena. Bhagavan says, as an indication of the nature of the Purush, in whom all beings abide and by whom all this is pervaded.
So this is, we have come across the same concept before also. It's like you are realizing God within you first, but also realizing at the same time that the same spark that is within me is pervaded in entire universe. That's what it is. That, hey, the drop in the ocean realizes I'm H2O, and the same time realizes the entire ocean is H2O. That's what they're trying to tell you over here, that, that all pervading and everything exists in him. I think these mud pots and mud, gold ornaments and gold, and waves and ocean is the best example to understand this concept. That how gold pervades all the ornaments.
And Umaji, once somebody understands this, then he realizes oneness in everything.
Exactly. That's where the identification happens. Why do you think that saints and sages, they don't get disturbed by everybody? Because they say, hey, ये मैं ही हूँ दूसरे फॉर्म में. मैं ही हूँ. So वो किसके साथ दुश्मनी करेगा वो? किसके साथ प्रेम करेगा? सबके साथ करेगा प्रेम, right? So that's तो वो विजन आने के लिए बहुत टाइम लगता है, मगर at least we understand it intellectually now. Then we can work towards that goal. Yeah.
All mud parts exist in the mud, and the mud pervades all mud parts, irrespective of their shape, size, or color. Whether it is a breaker or a wave or a wavelet, all are nothing but the ocean, and the ocean pervades all of them. Within and without, the substance of all parts is the substance with which they are made. The essential nature of all the waves, big, small, or tiny, is nothing other than the ocean from which they are born.
So now we can understand this example so beautiful, everything. And I remember that one statement from one of the saints. He said that we always say, God can do everything. Right? ऐसे ही हम लोग बोलते हैं कि राजा को रंक बना दिया, रंक को राजा वगैरह वगैरह जो भी है. सिर्फ एक काम गॉड नहीं कर सकता. अरे ऐसा कौन सा काम है गॉड नहीं कर सकता है? He cannot separate you from himself. So I like that a lot. वो करके दिखाओ तो जानू. एक भक्त बोल रहा है भगवान को कि भाई he cannot do that. You cannot separate me from you. So because it's the same thing.
Pure awareness is the eternal truth in which the unmanifest comes to be projected forth as the manifest. But for the cotton, the weaver's unmanifested conception of the beauty and proportion cannot be projected out and is spread out through his creative art of weaving, a design on the cloth he is making. At all points in that design of cloth, the one factor without which the design cannot stand is the substance of the threads in the cloth, the cotton.
Yeah, so in this example, like cotton से कपड़ा बनता है, मगर उसको कपड़ा बनाने के लिए कितना कुछ करना पड़ता है. डिजाइन चाहिए, आइडिया चाहिए, ये चाहिए, वो चाहिए. वो सबका आधार कॉटन है. वो बोल रहा है बिना कॉटन के ना डिजाइन बनेगी ना कुछ बनेगा, कितना भी आइडियाज हो. So that's what it is, that cotton here stands for that Brahman. Yeah, that's what it is. So he's trying to give so many beautiful examples for us to sink in deeper, what God is.
Pure awareness poured into the molds of vasanas, when frozen with ignorance, becomes the multiple world of names and forms, recognized, craved for, and struggled to acquire and to possess everywhere by everyone. Therefore, one who has identified oneself with this self in that vivid experience comes to understand the very essence out of which the confusing multiplicity has risen up into manifestation to confound the stupid ego and to labor it with the delusory dream of its sansar.
I think Swamiji has gone a very poetic language in this, extremely, to explain to us, that why this sansar came about. People say, क्यों आया? तो यहाँ पर उन्होंने बता दिया कि the molds of vasana frozen with ignorance. Because the sansar comes because of ignorance. That's another way they say that, Maya पर्दा डाल देती है. And then we go run after things and all that. But those saints and sages, they're saying, oh, this whole world belongs to me only. Who will I run after? That's why they're so relaxed. That joke is there, no? This person said, I'm staying in a 3-star hotel, 4-star hotel, 5-star. And the saint says, I'm in the 1,000,000-star hotel because I'm sleeping outside looking at the sky. So that's what it is.
Maji, in the first line of this paragraph, if you replace ignorance with ego, does anything change?
No, it's the same thing. ego happens because of ignorance.
Right.
Ego is nothing but I'm asserting myself, knowing that hey, मेरा तो कुछ है ही नहीं, what will I assert? You know, it's like the servant saying मालिक बन के बैठ गया. You know, 2 minutes में मालिक निकाल देगा उसको. So like if I start saying that oh this belongs to me, I'm so intelligent, I'm so this, I'm that, hey, whatever you got, it borrowed only. So just shut up and sit down, you know. That's what. So ego is because of ignorance. But in the Vedanta, that's how they look at it. Yeah.
Thank you.
There is one last paragraph also there in your book.
After enumerating the two distinct ways of procedure to go back from the manifest to the unmanifest, in the following, Krishna devotes an entire section to explain the routes taken by each to reach the two different destinations. Some reach a destination from where there is a return, and others attain a level of experience from which there is no return.
So here is answer to Urmil ji's question. एक तो है कि मैं पहुंच गया गोल, चलो उसको तो वापस ही नहीं आना है, बट जो नहीं जाता उसका क्या होता है. सिर्फ सबसे जो हमारे क्वेश्चन है ना वही यहाँ पर आएंगे. अर्जुन ने भी वही क्वेश्चन पूछे, कृष्ण भगवान को बहुत अच्छे से मालूम है ये क्वेश्चन आएगा सबके माइंड में कि अगर मुझे वो फाइनल गोल नहीं मिला तो क्या होगा मेरा, वो बताएंगे अभी. सो वो बोलते हैं ना कि थोड़ा सस्पेंस भी रखना चाहिए कि आगे क्या आने वाला है. You know? So that's what is going to happen. Yeah.
And the next line is, what are the two paths?
Yes. So, you know, it's a very symbolic. एक को चंद्र पाठ बोला, एक को सूर्य, but उसमें सब symbolism है, and we'll learn that. Yeah. Swami ji, you know, has explained it very, very beautifully. Chinmaya ji. So we'll do that. Any burning question before we go to our Upanishad?
My burning question was with the pure awareness. These 2-3 lines I was trying to apply to myself. Okay? And so it was hard because pure awareness poured into mold of vasanas. Like I said, vasanas. That's why I'm here, because of my vasanas. Then with pure awareness, that's my atma within me. So I was trying to contemplate how that works, and then frozen with ignorance. Okay, so because I always see myself as I am, and that's the frozen part of me that keeps me going on. So is that what is describing the individual? Is that the way
I think the reason he said frozen was कि जब कोई चीज एकदम फ्रीज हो जाती है ना तो उसका कुछ हो नहीं पाता है, कुछ हो नहीं पाता है. Sorry, true. But he was talking more about the ego becoming very strongly jaded. So जब फ्रोजन को जब हम लोग को कम करना होता है तो हम लोग क्या करते हैं, थॉ करना शुरू कर देते हैं उसको. You know? So अपने ईगो को थॉ करना शुरू कर दो कि भाई we are not the body, we are not the mind, we are not the intellect. You know, so it's a poetic language. It's just telling you in a poetic language that, you know, जितना ज़्यादा frozen ego होएगा उतना तुम वासना वहीं पे की वहीं रह जाएगी. And then you'll keep taking birth again and again. So if now you want to go towards that higher reality, so unfreeze your ego, and the vasanas will eliminate. Vasana elimination, the best remedy he gave was karma yoga. Do your duty, don't worry about the result, then your vasana gets exhausted slowly, you know. And then, you know, so everything ties up over here. But this is just a poetic language to tell that whole Vedanta. That's all it is, you know.
His other examples were easy to understand, but this one,
because Swamiji goes, you know, in his own mind, he has this, he's like, you know, a jnani, so he understands everything. We are kind of, but don't worry about it because it's the same thing told in a poetic language. That's all.
Swamiji, it also may mean that it is frozen, so it will thaw slowly. It's not going to go away right away.
It depends on how much heat you apply. So that's where all the mumukshutvam and all comes, you know.
Yeah.
So that if you really want it badly, ananya bhakti किसी को आ गई तो वो, you know, सीधा उन्होंने वो whatever 200 temperature लगा दिया तो फटाक से melt हो जाएगा. और हम लोग धीरे धीरे करेंगे वो भी चलेगा. I mean, ये two paths are the same thing. He's going to say that they are not like bad or good. I told you the best example is I want to go from here to New York. I can take a straight plane and land in New York, and the other person say, no, I don't like that straight thing. I want to enjoy the scenery. I want to see 5-10 different states, in between, and I want to do, so that's also okay. So this other path, it's not like you're doomed in there. It's saying slow path hai. जाएंगे आएंगे वेकेशन लेंगे ये करेंगे फिर पहुंचेंगे.
लेकिन उमा जी एक बात है ना, जो दूसरा मेथड है कि मैं 5 स्टेट के थ्रू जाऊंगा, has so much more possibility of getting lost and getting distracted.
Correct. You are absolutely right. कि मैंने सोचा तो था कि 5 स्टेट में, और वो एक स्टेट में ही मैं 3 महीना बैठ गई वहां पर, बिकॉज वहां पर वो 5 different national parks are there in Arizona. So true. You said it. But ये नहीं मालूम कि अगर मैं वहां पहुंच गई तो मुझे सब कुछ मिल जाएगा. 5 क्या 1000 मिलेगा, अनन्य मिलेगा, मतलब क्या बोलते हैं उसको, इन्फिनिट मिलेगा मुझे. So I don't have that understanding.
बीच में desires आ गई ना, because I want to see 5 states.
Exactly.
Desire will always destroy you.
I mean, if you go to Bhagavad Gita, pure Bhagavad Gita, it will say desirelessness is that moksha. But easy said than done, we know, but anyway, great discussion. Let's go to Taittiriya, because a very important topic is there over there. So let me close Bhagavad Gita here. सर्वधर्मान् परित्यज्य मामेकं शरणं व्रज अहं त्वा सर्वपापेभ्यः मोक्षयिष्यामि मा शुचः. हरिः ओम. श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः. हरिः ओम. So in Taittiriya, we are on verse, which one is this? 5, I believe. Yeah, verse 5 of Anuvak 11. So somebody tell the page number to everyone.